Today, let's explore together how to approach breaking free from the destructive cycle of self-blame. If you find yourself constantly thinking, "It's all my fault," or replaying mistakes over and over in your mind, please know that you're not alone. This pattern of self-blame affects millions of people worldwide, but there's hope. Today, we'll examine what recent research tells us about self-blame and explore evidence-based approaches that can help you develop a more compassionate relationship with yourself. The scientific community has made significant advances in understanding self-blame and self-criticism in recent years. Current research suggests that self-blame isn't simply a personality trait or character flaw, it's actually a specific cognitive pattern that involves identifiable changes in brain activity. Recent studies using functional MRI have found distinct connectivity abnormalities associated with self-blame, particularly in regions like the subgenual cingulate cortex and septal area. A comprehensive meta-analysis published in 2024 examined various therapeutic approaches and found that self-blame creates lasting vulnerability for depression and anxiety. Research institutions have discovered that people with depression often have cognitive biases that make them more likely to falsely blame themselves while excusing others' behaviors. However, this same research also reveals remarkable hope. The brain's neuroplasticity means these patterns can be changed through targeted interventions. Studies indicate that cognitive behavioral therapy approaches specifically targeting self-blame show significant effectiveness. Research has found that reduction of self-criticism during therapy is significantly associated with positive treatment outcomes across multiple therapeutic modalities. Mindfulness-based cognitive therapy has shown particularly promising results, with functional MRI studies demonstrating measurable changes in neural connectivity after treatment. One fascinating area of research involves neurofeedback interventions. Scientists have conducted the first clinical trials using fMRI neurofeedback to target self-blaming biases in major depressive disorder. This cutting-edge approach provides real-time information about brain activity, helping people literally see and change their neural patterns of self-blame. It's important to note that current research suggests individual factors like trauma history, personality traits, and co-occurring conditions might influence how someone responds to different approaches. This emphasizes the importance of personalized care and working with qualified professionals to find the most suitable path forward. The research limitations include varying study populations and different measurement methods, so we must approach these findings as helpful guidance rather than absolute answers. Now let's explore some practical methods that research suggests might be helpful for breaking free from self-blame patterns. Please remember that these are general approaches based on scientific studies, and what works may vary from person to person. The first method is cognitive reattribution training. This approach is based on challenging the automatic thoughts that lead to self-blame. Studies suggest that self-blame often involves cognitive distortions, thinking patterns that aren't based in reality but feel very convincing. The key is to develop awareness of these patterns and practice more balanced thinking. Why this method is effective lies in its ability to interrupt the automatic self-blame cycle by introducing evidence-based questioning. When you notice self-blame thoughts, you can ask yourself questions like, would I blame a friend in this same situation? Or, what evidence supports and contradicts this self-blame? This creates space between you and the automatic thought pattern. The second approach involves developing self-compassion skills. Research consistently shows that self-compassion is not just being nice to yourself, it's a scientifically backed approach with measurable benefits for mental health. Self-compassion involves three components: self-kindness instead of self-criticism, recognizing common humanity instead of isolation, and mindful awareness instead of over-identification with difficult emotions. The effectiveness of this method comes from its impact on the nervous system. Studies show that self-compassion practices activate the parasympathetic nervous system, reducing stress hormones and promoting emotional regulation. Even simple practices like placing your hand on your heart and speaking to yourself with kindness can begin to rewire neural pathways associated with self-criticism. A third method is mindfulness and decentering practices. This involves learning to observe self-blame thoughts without immediately believing or acting on them. Research suggests that mindfulness helps create what scientists call psychological distance from difficult thoughts and emotions. You might practice noticing when self-blame thoughts arise and simply observing them with curiosity rather than judgment. The psychological mechanism here involves strengthening areas of the brain responsible for executive control and emotional regulation. When you practice observing thoughts without being overwhelmed by them, you're literally building stronger neural networks that support emotional resilience. The fourth approach is behavioral activation, specifically designed to counter shame and self-blame. Studies show that shame often leads to withdrawal and avoidance, which can reinforce negative self-beliefs. Behavioral activation involves deliberately engaging in value-based activities even when you feel unworthy or undeserving. This might mean doing something kind for yourself when self-blame arises, or pursuing meaningful activities despite feeling like you don't deserve good things. The effectiveness of this approach lies in its ability to create new experiences that contradict negative self-beliefs. When you act in ways that demonstrate self-worth, you're providing your brain with evidence that challenges self-blame patterns. A fifth method involves working with qualified mental health professionals who understand self-blame and self-criticism. This might include specialized approaches like cognitive processing therapy, which research suggests is particularly well suited for people who struggle with self-blame. Some individuals might also benefit from exploring newer approaches like neurofeedback or other brain-based interventions. The reason professional support can be so effective is that trained clinicians can provide personalized assessments and treatments that address the specific factors contributing to each person's self-blame patterns. Throughout all these approaches, it's important to understand that change often happens gradually. Research suggests that rewiring deeply ingrained thought patterns takes time and consistent practice. Being patient and gentle with yourself during this process isn't just kindness, it's actually supported by neuroscience. Self-criticism and pressure can interfere with the learning processes that support positive change, while self-compassion creates the optimal conditions for growth and healing. It's also worth noting that self-blame often serves a psychological function. Sometimes people blame themselves because it feels like having control in situations where they actually have little control. Understanding this can help you develop compassion for why your mind developed this pattern in the first place, while still working to change it. To summarize what we discussed today, let me highlight the key points that research suggests might be most helpful. First, self-blame is a changeable brain pattern, not a fixed character trait, which means you have the power to develop new ways of thinking about yourself and your experiences. Second, challenge blame thoughts with evidence-based questioning by asking yourself what evidence supports and contradicts your self-critical beliefs. Third, self-compassion breaks can interrupt destructive thinking cycles by offering yourself the same kindness you would give a good friend. Fourth, mindfulness creates space between you and blame thoughts, allowing you to observe them without being overwhelmed. Fifth, value-based action reduces shame and builds self-worth by providing experiences that contradict negative self-beliefs. Sixth, professional support can accelerate healing from blame patterns through specialized approaches and personalized treatment. If you're struggling with self-blame, please remember that this is a common human experience with growing scientific understanding and effective treatment options. Your tendency towards self-blame doesn't make you weak or flawed, it often reflects sensitivity and a desire to do the right thing. Recovery involves learning to channel that sensitivity in more helpful directions. The research we've discussed today offers real hope. Scientists continue to develop better understanding of how self-blame works and more effective ways to address it. While everyone's journey is different, many people do find their way to a more compassionate relationship with themselves. Be patient with your progress, and know that seeking support is a sign of wisdom and self-care. Remember that change is possible. Your brain has an incredible capacity for growth and healing throughout your entire life. Each moment you choose self-compassion over self-blame, you're strengthening neural pathways that support emotional well-being. The pattern that causes you pain today can become the foundation for greater wisdom and compassion tomorrow. If today's discussion provided any support or useful information, please hit the like button. If you'd like to continue learning about mental health topics together, please consider subscribing to our channel. May your hearts feel a little lighter, and thank you for listening until the end today. Remember, you deserve the same compassion you would offer to others, and there is hope for breaking free from the cycle of self-blame.